What's up, guys? It's your boy Kyger back with another Hypixel Skyblock tutorial video. And in this video, I'm going to be going over how to play Berserker on floor 7. Now, some of the things that I go over in this video will vary depending on what the build of your team is, whether or not you have a tank on your team, etc. But pretty much I'll explain the best I can, and also explain what changes depending on certain teams. Now, what you saw right here is an optional step. If you have two mages that both have Jerry Sheen guns, you wouldn't have to do this. But my friend Monster used his Jerry Sheen gun to go up the pillar, and I Spirit Leaped to him in order to pick up the crystal. This is a strategy that's often used to make the completion of the first phase slightly faster, but it is not necessary if you have two mages, both of which have Jerry Sheen guns in their hotbar and know how to get crystals. So simply just repeat the process and then get Maxer into the beam. And once you've done that, you will head on to phase 2. Now, this actually is something that you wouldn't necessarily always have to do, but in this particular situation, our archer did have a Juju, not a Terminator. And so, as a result, I had to clear off the pads with my Axe of the Shredded instead of a Term Archer clearing it with their triple arrow bursts. You'll see I go over to yellow, and I clear that one as well in order to clean up everything over there. And then I bait the Shadow Assassin, of course, and take care of it as well. After I get rid of the Shadow Assassin, then you move on to pads. Usually you want to have one player on each pad if you have a good team. So I usually wait before I go over to yellow pad, just in case Storm's AI decides to be a little bit stupid and, chase me over there, even though I've never touched him at any point in the run, which is, thank you, Hypixel, very good game design. But, Storm's gonna come over here, my team is, doing something, I don't really know what, and then we crush Storm, and it's very simple. And then we go over to terminals. Now, as a Burz, there is no real specific responsibility for you to do as a Berserker in Phase 3. It's kind of just do as many terminals as you can. It's good to establish who's going to do what terminals as a team. Most cases, you'll have your tank doing device because they obviously will have to be there for a little bit, and they will throw on a slime hat so that they can have true knockback resistance against Goldor's greatsword so that they don't get hurt when trying to complete the terminal. The archer in a less experienced team would obviously focus on levers and taking down Goldor with their bow in order to slow down his movement. However, as a Burz, you can kind of just, if you have a more experienced team, then you can do that as a Burz. It's pretty much whoever completes their set terminals the fastest will move on to do levers. So I always do the exact same terminal route. You can work out whatever you want to with your team. I don't usually, I never really explained exactly what it is because I use Party Finder a lot, so I just usually go through, and if anyone misses any terminals, then I clean those up in the back to make sure that we don't miss anything and potentially throw the run. So then you want to go down, make sure that nobody skips this terminal, and then usually I just go right up here to get to this next one when I do my personal terminal routes. Obviously, you will make your own depending on what you want to do. I was getting pretty crap RNG with how many of the ones that I had to click, but that is not really the most important thing. Once again, you want to leave your tank to do device. However, if you look here, our tank is on device. It's taking a little while. We're waiting, seeing what's happening, what's going on. What's Tank doing? He's taking his time. Okay. He disconnects. So now we have Monster, our mage with a slime hat, to back up and save the run. So, I run over to help stall, and then we go back to complete the last section of the terminals. And so, once again, kind of just do whatever terminals you figured out. As a Burz, you don't really have any specific that you should be going for devices or anything like that. Just kind of figure out what you want to do and get that done. So next, you want to go over to here and wait for Goldor in phase, because you're about to enter phase 4, so you're going to wait for Goldor here. What you want to do is, actually, this isn't necessary by default, but I use my Juju during this phase simply because it's just more consistent DPS, considering you can't really melee Goldor without getting obliterated almost instantly, not to mention his true knockback is painful. So I always just use my Juju during phase 3 for DPS, but phase 4 is a little bit different, and this is where things will change between whether or not you have a tank. Either way, you're going to want to go mid. So I don't know if this is necessarily a new change, but when you go mid in floor 7, before Necron, so Necron's in mid right now, right? He is actually not doing his frenzy yet. You'll see, there's a big indicator for when he'll enter doing his frenzy, but you see here, I can just hit it, and I won't take any damage at all. So now you see the little thing happens, and you see he starts to frenzy, and he deals a lot of damage when he frenzies. Now, if you have a tank, which I will show in just a moment, it will negate pretty much all of that damage. But that's why I use a Bonzo Mask, because it is very, very risky to go in floor 7, go in and melee without having a Bonzo Mask on, especially considering the fact that if your tank accidentally falls out of range, then the damage can crank up really, really quickly. But here I'm going to show a quick point where you'll see that when I have a tank, I can just go in and melee. This was a little unusual. You know, our tank he's doing his best with what I think was a Runon's bow to do the device. I don't really know what was going on there. But pretty much, you see, I tried to set the stonk. I kind of failed. But either way, I just go over to get the Juju out, and I start shooting him. So, I do have a tank this run, which means that I can go mid and kind of just shred him with DPS. Like I mentioned earlier, this particular party actually did have a Juju Archer instead of a Terminator Archer, which means that the DPS does fall a little bit heavier onto the Burz. Necron only has 300 million HP, and I do about 1 to 3 million per hit, depending on blessings, axe swaps, etc. So I usually have to do a decent percentage of its health. Now, you see, I can go mid here really easily, and I will take pretty much no damage. Obviously, he's not frenzying yet, but even once he frenzies, you'll see I take almost no damage whatsoever from his frenzy. You can see he's ticking the frenzy, and it'll maybe take a heart and a half off at most, but I instantly heal that back regardless, so it doesn't really matter. And, you know, we celebrate our victory, and that's the end of the run. So that's pretty much all there is to explain the basics of it, but that is how you play it. And now we're going to talk about your gear that you might want to have. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the gear that you need in order to play Burz on floor 7, and also how clearing through the actual dungeon is going to be. As a Berserker, clearing is terrible. It is the worst experience ever. It's not... No. Clearing mobs as a Berserker is not the play. It just isn't. It's not good. So, pretty much, you're going to be spending most of your time just doing secrets like I'm doing here in Rails. Now, let's talk about what gear you're going to need in order to play Burz properly. In order from what I believe to be is most to least important. The most important thing that you're going to need is you need to have an Axe of the Shredded if you want to play Burz on floor 7. Like, that is 100%, that is a necessity. Now, in terms of utilities, because you're going to be doing a lot of secrets, you want to have an aspect of the Void, preferably that has an Ether Warp on it, but that is not needed. I would also recommend that you do carry a Juju, preferably with Soul Eater 5. Personally, mine doesn't have that quite, because I haven't bothered to do it, but preferably you'd want to have Soul Eater 5 just for when you do end up having to clear certain rooms. You should also have a Bonzo staff for mobility, and you should have 1 of 4 weapons to swap to. This is not needed, but it is ideal. You should either have from best to, or from worst to best, a Shadow Fury is good, a Giant Sword is great, a Valkyrie is amazing, and a Claymore is just beautiful. If you can get a Claymore for floor 7, just like buy yourself an M7 comp if you're at that kata level, then that will be your best friend both in and out of dungeons. It is absolutely amazing. Now, obviously, if that's not in your budget, then that's fine. You should also have an epic or legendary Tiger Pet. Legendary Tiger Pet is a relatively large markup in price from epic, and it's not necessarily worth it, but it will increase your damage just a little bit in phase 3 and 4. It will increase your damage there. Now, otherwise, after that, a Stonk is helpful, of course, and you should have 2 Bonzo masks, 1 fragged, 1 unfragged, to help you survive in the boss. Now, if you found this video helpful, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and be sure to check in for more tutorial videos in the future, and have a nice day.